It began with a single wall. A family moved into a quiet neighborhood, into a modest home with 3 bedrooms and a small attic. The first night was peaceful. But the next morning, they noticed something strange, a hallway that hadn't been there before. They assumed they'd missed it during the tour. But then, the house began to change. Each day revealed something new, a door that hadn't existed, a corridor stretching longer than memory allowed. The family felt unsettled, yet fascinated. They were living inside a mystery, one that grew silently in the dark. Each morning, something was different. A new door, a longer corridor, a staircase that led to nowhere. They asked the landlord, but he denied any renovations. Neighbors said the house had always looked the same. But the family knew better. They began to document the changes. Photos, measurements, sketches. The house was growing silently, invisibly, and only at night. They tried to stay awake, to catch it in the act. But every time they opened their eyes, the house was still. It only grew when no one was watching. It was shy. Or perhaps it was hiding something. They set up cameras, motion sensors, alarms, but nothing ever triggered. The footage showed nothing. No workers, no movement, just darkness. And then daylight, with new structures in place. One morning, they found a room filled with antique furniture, dusty, untouched, and completely sealed off from the rest of the house. No door led to it, it simply existed. Another morning, a staircase appeared, winding upward into a tower that hadn't been there before. The tower overlooked the neighborhood, but inside, the windows showed only darkness. The house was rewriting itself, piece by piece. They tried to leave, moved out. But the house followed. The next home they rented began to change too. Same patterns, same growth. It was as if the house wasn't a building. It was a presence, a force that attached itself to them. They realized they weren't living in a home. They were living inside something alive. The walls pulsed faintly at night, as if breathing. The floors creaked with footsteps that weren't theirs. The ceilings stretched higher, the rooms wider. The house wasn't shelter. It was a predator, growing stronger with each passing night. Mid-script CTA. Would you stay in a house that builds itself? Smash that like button if you run far away, and subscribe for more mysteries that defy logic. Architects were baffled. Engineers couldn't explain the materials. Some walls were made of stone that didn't exist locally. Others had carvings in languages no one could identify. The family invited researchers. But every time someone stayed overnight, the house remained still. It only grew when no one was watching. It was shy. Or maybe it was waiting for the right moment, waiting for the right person, waiting to reveal its true purpose. The family began to fear that the house wasn't building rooms. It was building a trap. One morning, they found a basement. It hadn't been there before. Inside were dozens of doors, all locked. One was slightly ajar. Behind it, a narrow tunnel led deep underground. They followed it for hours. It twisted, turned, and eventually led back to the living room. The house had folded space. It was no longer bound by physics. Another day, they found a library. Thousands of books lined the shelves. Each book was blank, except for one. It contained their names, their birthdays, their secrets. The house knew them. It had always known them. They began to hear sounds, hammering, sawing, whispers, but only at night. They stayed awake, trying to catch it. But the moment they opened their eyes, the sounds stopped. One night, they pretended to sleep. The sounds continued. They heard footsteps, breathing, and then silence. The next morning, a new wing had appeared, with windows that looked out into nothing. Beyond the glass was not the neighborhood, not the sky, but a void, black, endless, and silent. The house wasn't expanding into the world. It was expanding into something else. The family stopped fighting it. They let the house grow. They stopped documenting, stopped asking questions. But the house didn't stop. It grew faster. More rooms, more corridors, more secrets. One day they found a room with portraits of themselves. but older, different, as if the house knew their future or had already lived it. Another day, they found a nursery. Toys scattered across the floor, but they had no children. The house was preparing for something they couldn't understand, preparing for someone who hadn't arrived yet. NCTA, would you live in a house that builds itself at night? Or would you escape before it finishes? Comment below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to keep the mystery alive. The house may be building even now, and the next room could be yours.